Well, all right, everybody. Hello and welcome back to Dan's Astrology. Today is February the 7th. The aspect or the transit that I'm doing today is going to be about Venus and Mercury making their ingress into Pisces and making a square to Uranus. Now, first of all, I'm going to have to apologize to you because, as you see, I've got the date here as the 5th. Today is the 7th, so Mercury has already ingressed into Pisces. Venus is at 26 degrees today, making the square to Uranus at 27 degrees. And if I go a little bit further back in time, you will see that Uranus just recently stationed direct here on the 3rd of February. So there's a few things that I'm just playing catch up on here, okay? So first of all, I would like to basically apologize to my loyal fans for slowing down a little bit, and just I have to just give you guys fair warning, or just I'm just going to tell it like it is that I am an astrologer who is on a PWD, persons with disability benefit, for mental health conditions. And in the recent, this year, 2026, we're in February now, the second month of 2026. It's been a doozy. And I admittedly probably have, for having a mental health disability, I'm sure I'm not as bad off as some people out there. But just the very nature of the stuff going on, I have had to slow down on my internet consumption and my internet participation, and just because it's basically the whole thing about the Epstein files is like you've got you know those game shows where you're like behind door number one you've got like a fancy pickup truck, right? Behind door number two, you've got a satanic cult performing all sorts of the most horrific forms of ritual abuse. And then behind door number three, there's a coupon for a coffee and donut shop. So the thing about this is that you can see these things. It's like we're playing this game where we're playing like a shell game, and like in one of the shells, there's a very highly charged, shocking thing, right? And you if you're sensitive and you're intuitive, you're constantly playing this game like, oh shit, I better not open that door. And then so the problem is basically that I I I've looked into it enough. I do have to admit that I do have a bit of a taste for like researching things and reading things, and sometimes that crosses a little bit into conspiracy theory territory and stuff like this. But there is, in terms of the release of the Epstein files right now, there is an element of shock, and Uranus stands for shock. And when you put that together with Venus and Mercury, you've got the messenger, the communicator, the one that communicates information, the one that communicates what's happening, that sends messages, it lets everybody know what's going on. We can come up with coherent plans of how to deal with problems and stuff like that. And Venus, of course, stands for things like women, creativity, things like this, right? There's the feminine, right? And obviously when the Uranus can be shocking, can also be rebellious, right? There's some issue here where I have to admit, first of all, I'm a man, a heterosexual man, making an astrology podcast, or whatever you would say, an astrology channel. And I admit, I'm going to acknowledge that the demographics of YouTube astrology are very female oriented, and I am a heterosexual male, but I would like to just admit that there's a certain tension when it comes to identifying yourself as a male feminist. And this was one of the reasons why in my previous videos, I was spending a lot of time talking about Kurt Cobain, because for me, he's like a very clear illustration of like the inherent problems to trying to be a male feminist. That there's some inherent stress that you're putting yourself in by putting yourself in that position. And if you don't have healthy coping mechanisms, and your only form of taking care of that is sex, drugs, and rock and roll and becoming a heroin addict, you're probably not going to, you gotta have to have, first of all, better coping mechanisms. And it also helps if your traumas weren't that serious, that kind of thing. But I would just basically, I think, would like to reassure people that it's a difficult thing to do because there's this culture war going on where people don't want men to be male feminists. And but if I'm going to make a video and announce myself like that, I'm feeding myself into a system run by people who are, Mark Zuckerberg announced himself as being all for, it's good to be a man. Like toxic masculinity isn't toxic, guys. Guess what? It's perfectly healthy to be a man and express your maleness. And we don't want to create a culture that says men have to repress themselves. We want to give a platform for men to express themselves if they have something to say, right? So the problem about this is that you're caught in. I think for me, it goes very well with the astrology, because if you think about the decans of Aquarius, and there's the teacher that I studied with, Adam Ellenboss, is apparently going to be doing a whole course on the decans. And apparently also Austin Coppock is finally going to be putting out his book, right? I personally use one called The 36 Secrets by Susan T. Chang. That was recommended to me from Adam Ellenboss, I think, if I remember correctly. There's a lot of books that you can get on this, okay? There's a certain style of decan astrology where the decans are used in compatibility with the tarot cards. And so what we're having right now is we're having two planets in the third decan of Aquarius squaring Uranus, which is recently stationed direct in the third decan of Taurus. And it's a doozy. It's a hell of a doozy. And I'm going to explain to you why. Because Uranus, this is where fucking fixed star Algol is one of the worst planets in the zodiac. This is no easy business to have Uranus stationed direct on fixed star Algol. You just look at the shocking shit going on and you'll see what I mean, okay? And or just whatever is going on in the world right now. I don't have to dwell on that too much. You probably get the point. So it's the seventh decan of Taurus. It was known in this system as the Lord of Failure. There's something that we've failed to do. We've failed our women. We've failed our sexually abused people. We've failed the people that have been victims of a mass network of rapists, sadists, abusers, the sickest freaks on the planet. And that we have built a system, a structure, which is designed so that this stuff can take place without having anybody stop it. So we're in the midst of this. It hasn't changed yet, but slowly but surely things may start to change, right? And I think when you think about the fixed signs, think about the three mode. You've got the cardinal being an initiating, which is kind of like, we'll try it out. If you think about Aries people, whether they're going to commit to a project, who knows, but they'll be up for a try. You can count on Aries to be up for a try. They'll try anything once. They're like got this daredevil, let's just do it. Let's just try it out, right? Once you get into the fixed signs, they have a pattern that they're familiar with, that they've grown accustomed to, and they're comfortable with, and they just like to stick with that, right? And by the time you get to the third decan of a fixed sign, you got a system, you got it down, you know what works, you know what it doesn't work. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And the problem about this is that with the Uranus in the third decan of Taurus, the decan that's called failure, there's obviously going to be you're going to be shockingly confronted with something that obviously ain't working. Yeah, and then you're going to be like, oh, I guess we got to change. If push comes to shove, we got to change something, right? And then in the third decan of Aquarius, it's the decan associated with the Seven of Swords. It's the one where the guy is walking away. He's carrying a bunch of swords. He's walking away like from an encampment, like a military encampment, where he just jacked all these guys' swords. And then he's just remembered, oh shit, I left something behind there, and I got to go back, or I'm not going to get away with this. I thought I just pulled off the heist of a lifetime, but they got dirt on me. They got dirt on me. They got dirt on you. We're all fucked, basically. We're all under a certain... we're all being coerced, we're all being blackmailed, and we're fucked. There's nothing we can do about it. We're posed with this dilemma where we've got to make a change, but we also can't make a change, and we're just fucked right in the middle of it, right? Now, in the midst of this, you may start to notice things may actually start to change, right? And the thing is, there can be, there's two polarities here, right? There's things that are like truths that emerge to the surface that are just so shocking that I personally, like, I tried listening to a bit of what was going on, and it made me physically ill. Like, you know, I think you don't want to go there. You're just going to want to fucking hurl your guts up. I don't want to do it, right? So my advice is leave that to other people. I'm going to try to take care of, like, getting everybody disturbed and freaked out and upset isn't going to do. It's almost like it's weaponized you against you in this way, right? Because there's all this stuff nobody wants to talk about, and that if you do try to approach it and you get too much too fast, you're just going to like vom or something. It's just going to be gross, right? So what you got to do is you got to just trust that there. Like, I personally, like, look, I got a PWD benefit, disability, and just being a little bit of this pressure. It's sort of like, you ever get this thing where it's like an aperture of a camera, and like most of the time you go through life with your aperture of your camera fairly closed, and then under certain stressful circumstances it opens up and you see more about what's going on? It's like, there is a spiritual teacher that was recommended to me through my meditation teacher named Muji, and he was saying that if you're waking up to I mean, he's not talking about the making up to some sort of conspiracy bullshit. He's talking about knowledge of self, right? If you're waking up to knowledge of self, then don't try to slam the brakes on. Let that process carry out itself, and don't try, you know, sometimes you might hit like block or something, or you only, you know, it's just, you don't have to, like, if you're waking, if your consciousness wants to open up a little bit, you don't have to put all your energy into fighting that. But at the same time, you may realize that it may be better for you to focus on things other than that shit. You know what I'm trying to say? But so there's things that's like, so you're going to be like, how I got to make, you know, people what might happen is in the process of this, you may be like, okay, instead of spending all my time just looking at my phone and doom scrolling, then maybe I will, like, I've been trying, I'm kind of unplugged from the internet, do self-care shit, all this kind of stuff to like, to cope and make things easier, right? In the process of doing this, you may start making some changes in your life, and you may notice other people making changes, or you may notice like, if you spend all your time looking at one thing, there may be changes going on in the background of other areas you're not paying attention to. So if you stop looking at this one thing, you may notice changes somewhere else, and even if those changes aren't very, like, dramatic, it could just be that if you've been dealing in a situation that's been kind of stale and stagnant, and just kind of, you've just been putting up with the same old cruddy stuff, and you kind of gave up hoping it would ever change, it might just, even the smallest little change might seem really shocking. Even if it's something really insignificant, you might just be like, holy shit, wasn't expecting, whoa, you know, it's like, it's a different ball, we're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy, we're in a whole different ballpark, right? So this is basically the silver lining of this, is that the good news is that if you feel like you are trapped in an unmovable situation where nothing's changing, nothing's fixing, it's just, you just got to put up with this bullshit forever. It's like, you may start noticing signs that the dam is beginning to burst, things are starting to move, things are starting to happen, and that one of the things that I've noticed in my own process of dealing with this is that what I was trying to say about the Kurt Cobain thing is that even though my principles is that I'm against violence against women, I'm against violence against minorities, I'm against police brutality and all this kind of stuff, but I'm a heterosexual dude. I've got a pair of balls. My body produces testosterone, and because of this, it gives me a temperament that makes me angry. And I have to admit that there is a grain of truth to some of these the bro dudes, when like, if you like, the point is that I don't want to be like, the only way for me to live with myself is to castrate myself, cut my balls off so I don't, and make myself into a woman, because I don't fucking identify that way. I'm not a trans person. I don't identify as somebody who needs to fucking go all estrogenal. If I feel angry, I want to fucking, but the thing is, this is the point. We live in a society where if I raise my voice, and it's like, you're surrounded by a bunch of women, right? It's like, it's, you know, that like expression, trouble in the hen house? Like, I'm under this, what the best way I can take care of my family, which is my mother and my sister, is to learn to be cool and calm and not freaking out and not stressed out, and make them feel comfortable, right? And what I notice is that if I start to, there's a certain amount that I can express to them that they can deal with, but if I start inching towards their boundary of their limit of things that they don't want to talk about or that's uncomfortable to them, it's like they lose their human rationality. And pardon me if this sounds like offensive, but they go into like, they're like the trouble in the hen house thing, where they're like gobbling turkeys, like blah 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 blah. It's like you can't do any, like, if you trigger somebody into that, it's like, it's my impression of like the panicked female hysteria of like, we're all cool, we're all collected, we've all got it together, as long, but we don't want to talk about this thing. And if you start inching towards that, they're gonna go like blah 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 blah, and you have feathers everywhere, and it's like, this is like a cartoon, right? You get what I'm trying? I'm trying to like paint with cartoon colors to make this a little bit more palatable to you, right? So the way that I've dealt with this was that I got into meditation. Rather than trying to be one of these guys who's like fucking on the Joe Rogan podcast, I'm trying to treat this like a goddamn Zen master, where a silent meditation, you can have fucking samurai showdown all around you, all you want, right? But I'm gonna be fucking cool as a cucumber, right? We're gonna be cool as a cucumber. We're gonna be eating fucking, tuna sashimi, right? We're gonna be carving up some big tunas, and we're gonna be fucking chill as fuck, right? We're not gonna be not a drop of sweat on our forehead at all. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be chilly willy, So this is now what is the upside? Another silver lining about this is that what we've been dealing with since I recorded my last video is that, as you can see here, we've had this huge stellium of planets we have had Pluto, Mars, Sun, Venus, and Mercury in Aquarius. If you have any fixed sign placements at all, you're going to be feeling this one. And I think that it should be it's going to be helpful, as you see here, that we have Mercury in Pisces today. And now Mercury, of course, is not very well dignified in Pisces. So if don't expect clear communication just yet, okay? It's going to be pretty hazy, cloudy, confusing, perhaps even surreal for a while. And now Venus, once Venus ingresses into Pisces, Venus is exalted in Pisces. So the thing about this is, now that once we get Venus and Mercury in Pisces, we're going to have them both run into the North Node as well as Saturn. And Saturn's going into Aries, right? So what you got in this situation is, if the last couple weeks have felt like hell on earth, then I would say that Venus in Pisces should at least bring a bit of relief to the situation, because Venus is well dignified here. And we've got the problem, though, is that the North Node and Saturn are, I'm of the mind that I consider both the North Node and the South Node malefic. Sorry, evolutionary astrologers. If you guys want me to, if you want to talk evolutionary astrology, if you want me to try to I'm not in fucking astrology debate club today, okay? I'm doing it my way. So in my way, the North Node's malefic. So when Mercury hits the North Node, don't expect anything good from this. Maybe unless you want to write some like cryptic, like grunge rock poetry, or whatever. I think that's what might be good for. Like if you want to be like, oh, I'm going to have my hair down in front of my face, I'm crying, and I'm going to be like mumbling my words and like, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's the last time, entertain us, I'm just a crybaby, nobody likes me, I don't know how to work a job, so I just play my guitar, I don't like the world, I'm not going to fit in, I'm just a misfit, like, yeah, so that's what it's going to be good for. So if you want to do that, you're going to have plenty of time to do that, right? So one of the things that I have a problem, right? Because I like music, but I don't like writing lyrics because I don't want to be that guy. You're creating a situation where you're either going to be a fucking gangbanger, you're like, we're gun in your face, we're going to shoot you, or else you're like, I'm just a sad boy, I don't like it myself, And it, like, you don't want to get caught in that fucking binary, okay? You want to give yourself some other options. So one of the things that I have gotten into is that I have, when I was a teenager, I was really into art, visual art, right? And I applied for Emily Carr, the art school in Vancouver, and I didn't get in, okay? It was very disappointing. And at the same time around that happened, I had a girlfriend that I was going out with, and I was just like, oh, I didn't get into Emily Carr, I don't know what to do, I'll just take more art courses. And as I'm trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing with my life, apparently making all the wrong choices, I get dumped by my girlfriend, okay? And so I'm like, it's not just, I didn't get into art school, and also my girlfriend thinks I'm just a loser who has no career, who's just going to be an artist, art fag, who no one is going to respect, and I just feel bad about it. Like, so I have this emotional baggage over trying to be an artist, right? I have an emotional baggage over trying to write lyrics because I don't want to be a faggy sad boy, okay? Because I don't want to be like, oh, I gotta cut my balls off so I can fit in with the fucking screamo trans girls or whatever, right? I'm sorry, I'm just letting it out. I'm telling you how it is. I'm gonna be me, and what I'm into is I like astrology, I like some Carl Jung shit, I like some archetypes, I like some reading some fiction, I like some sci-fi, I like some horror movies. This is what you're gonna get. This is what I'm into, okay? So, I've been, one of the things that I've realized is that if I just get out of this, like with all these planets in Aquarius, it feels very scientific, it feels very rational, it feels very like true or false, binary system, computer code, are you right or are you wrong, are you good or are you bad, does not compute, like at least we have this opportunity to go into Pisces, where we're more in this mystical water, where it's like poetry and art, and Venus is exalted there, and you can express yourself, and through you could do ecstatic dance, or you could go and paint some paintings, or you could make art part of a devotional spiritual practice. There's all sorts of great things that we can do with Venus and Pisces, okay? So I think I'm despite all the shitty things happening, I'm making this video with an attitude of hope and optimism for the future, because Venus is exalted in Pisces, and if you play by the rules of this system, this means Venus is exalted, meaning that when Venus hits the North Node, we're going to get a hell of a lot of this energy where you're going to be like, I'm a devotional artist. The laws of your machines do not apply to me because I transcend those simple binaries. I'm like Trinity in the Matrix, and I'm going to be painting my own picture. I'm not going to be doing this paint by number fucking bullshit, okay? So this is like... I think that with Uranus, we have this opportunity to break out of you've got this sort of okay, so you're going to have to paint, you're going to get your paint by number things, and you're going to paint which color is number 11, which color is number 8. You're going to choose this color and put it there. Oh, you got the wrong color. You fucked up. You fail. Okay, you're not getting into art school. You picked the wrong color. Oh, woo. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like this we have this I've been thinking about color psychology a bit, right? I've been thinking about the Matrix. I've been thinking about Goethe. Do you guys know Goethe? Apparently he's got a good book on color psychology, right? But he's also got a good book on making deals with the devil too, right? So when you're thinking about color psychology, you gotta understand you're dealing with some Germans who are talking about making deals with Satan at the same time, right? Something to factor into the situation, perhaps, right? So when you take this is the kind of thing about when I also have to admit that for a period of time I was in a fourth way study group, right? A certain occult practice. And at some point in time, the people that are into this stuff are looking for people to recruit, right? And last time they were doing that, nobody fucking wanted to join those guys, right? But the people in that group, right? One of my friends in that group was really into this sort of like color psychology stuff. Where not just color psychology, but it's like you get these new agers who are like need to wear white all the time, and because if you're wearing black, you're is negative energy, and I'm like, I don't know. I always, I'm coming from people, who'd be like, you'd be like at a noise show in an art gallery and everyone's wearing black. And I'm like, don't tell me that. Don't give me this fucking new age where I'm not going to rock up to the noise show wearing all white. Although maybe that's what Coil did some shows where they were wearing all white because it reflected the colors being projected on them. Right. So there's, maybe in some situations, like there's this thing about color psychology, and I don't know if I have the time and energy to get into it all right now, but there's something about all this where I'm gonna just admit that the whole time I've been doing this channel, I made an intentional decision to avoid the language of red pill and blue pill, okay? Because first of all, I don't want to get involved in that incel culture. And second of all, I had a roommate once that was into that pickup artist stuff, and I can see where it comes from. And I don't want to throw my roommate under the bus either, because he wasn't all bad, but there's a certain bad seed, you could say, a bad seed that has been planted. And I feel that by every time anybody reinforces those ideas and that language, that you're watering a bad seed, and you don't want to see the flowers of that seed blossom, do you? I don't think so, right? So the point about this is that you don't want to create a situation where, like, let me give you another example. You know how in America gang wars you have the Bloods and the Crips? You don't want to create a situation where red pill, blue pill becomes Bloods and the Crips, and you can't walk down the street wearing your favorite color without people feeling like you're throwing gang signs at them. It's like you want to have the idea with color psychology is that each color is itself archetypal. Right? And an archetypal psychology is never exhausted by one narrow meaning, right? As soon as you reduce a color to red pill, blue pill, or white pill, black pill, or whatever, you're dead. You're cooked. Your goose is cooked, basically, right? You're gonna have to see that blue is the blues. It's Krishna blue. Blue is James Hillman has a whole chapter all on the color blue, right? If you just stick with it, there's so much depth of meaning to just a simple thing like if you're an artist and you're choosing this color and that color. And this is the base. The thing about this is that why I'm encouraged about Pisces is that Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's ruled by Jupiter traditionally, meaning that it's about this kind of mystical and growth and expansion. And while Saturn feels like very contracting into this structure of like the bones and the skeleton and calculating, will the architecture hold the structure? Can we bear the weight? Can the bridge take the pressure? All this kind of stuff. In Pisces, you're like, okay, we've got that Saturn structural stuff out of the way. Now we can open up and relax and kind of like expand and kind of just sort of like, you can use your art therapy and you can use like yoga and all, there's more like, you can kind of like, where we're tense and where we've been carrying this this burden. Like Saturn is also moving into Aries. So it's like we've had to carry the burden, this lead weight of this burden in that part of the zodiac. And I don't know if Aries is necessarily going to be any easier, but it's at least going to be a relief that we're going to have Saturn out of there and we're going to have Venus exalted it's like getting a massage after you've been doing a lot of heavy lifting on this one project. We're going to have a nice period of time where you get a nice Venusian massage, some art therapy, you get your sound bowls out, right? You can meditate and ring your sound bowls, and you can kind of like, you might It's like man, I could talk forever about this. It's an interesting time. I would say I might recommend looking at Wilhelm Reich. I recommend I don't know, doing some Zen meditation, watch some samurai movies. Thanks for watching. Okay, stay tuned for more. See ya.